It's hard to think about planning for the end of your life, but it's something we all have to do. If you're a veteran, you have a large number of resources to help you. Stay with us as we discuss end-of-life resources and support for veterans and their families. Thanks for tuning in to Veterans Voices. I'm your host, Joshua Zebley. Tonight, we'll be talking about end-of-life resources and support for veterans and their families. If you want to be part of the conversation or have any questions, just use the URL on the screen to join us by Zoom webinar, or you can call us at 925-313-1170. We would love you to be part of the show. I want to introduce tonight's guest, Noga Welner-Kessler, the Veterans Coordinator for Hospice East Bay, and joining us via Zoom is Morgan Boyd, the Veteran Service Officer for San Luis Obispo County. Welcome, Noga.
Thank you.
Welcome, Morgan. Noga, could you tell us a little bit about what you do at Hospice East Bay?
Absolutely. So I'm a social worker and the Veterans Coordinator at Hospice East Bay. And when a veteran comes on, the veteran can be the patient or the spouse or an adult child within the family unit. We have veterans that come on that have advanced disease and terminal diagnosis. And if their terminal diagnosis is the progression of their illness is about 6 months or less, then they are provided the specialty care of hospice. And when they come on, I make sure that they have the benefits that they need, the resources, the support services that they need to help them navigate through this time in their life.
Well, thank you, Noga. That seems like a kind of an emotionally charged job, and I want to thank you on behalf of veterans, and I know you're a veteran yourself, right?
Yes.
For what you do. It can't be easy, but we need people like you who do that. So tonight we're talking about end-of-life resources for veterans and their families. Luckily joined by yourself and Morgan Boyd from San Luis Obispo. When we think about veterans, there's one document that really lets everyone know what a veteran is, right? And that document is your DD-214. And I believe we're going to have a photo of that on the screen shortly. But it's important that veterans understand what a DD-214 is. So if you can see on the screen, in the bottom left corner in the green, DD Form 214. So that's the official document that signifies that you are a veteran. On that document, it'll have your service number, it'll have your character of discharge, it'll have your service dates, your branch, any awards, any medals. That's the form that you need to bring when you're coming to a VSO or you're going to a hospice. Unfortunately, not the one on the right that says honorable discharge with the big red cross, although we do hope you have an honorable discharge. That is not the form that we need. We need the one that says DD-214 on the bottom left. And Morgan, you probably see other examples of discharge documents that are brought into your office, but we just want to make sure that especially survivors and dependents understand what a DD-14 is. We think most veterans probably do, but that's a document you need. So the DD-214 is going to be the document that is going to really open up your benefits, open up the availability of benefits to you, and most of the benefits we're going to talk about tonight, probably all of them, you can't get without proof that you're a veteran, right? The character of discharge on there is not always going to signify what benefits you're eligible for, so don't worry about that. Definitely worry about just getting the document. Would you say what do you do if somebody comes into your office without a DD-214?
Absolutely. That is the first question I do ask, and it does start the story of the years of service, which is very important for some benefits as well as other information on the 214. So if the veteran does not have a copy, sometimes it is, we do have to go to the County Veteran Service Office and complete the request for through the National Archives. And we do have a process where we can request it to be expedited due to the veteran being terminally ill and needing it either for medical needs or perhaps if they do pass for their burial benefits. So there is an opportunity to expedite it. But ideally, if they can locate a copy, that is the best, and get that in a safe place and tucked in.
So getting your D214 from National Archives, which we're going to share that resource at the end of the show, can take time, right? It can take a few months depending on the backlog. So we really want to do this at any time. Right now, if you're a veteran watching that are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and above, you want to get that even if you're not doing anything else. Get that DD214, get it filed with any county. You can come in and say, can you please log this, or whatever we may call that, different veteran service organizations, then we will keep it on file. Morgan, how do you communicate with veterans that you speak to the importance of a DD214?
I mean, we make it very clear that it's the single most important document that a veteran needs to hold on to. And the thing you mentioned about getting it certified with the county is extremely important, because you can imagine that a spouse, if the end of life plan is not maybe put together, a dependent or a spouse, having to take the time to fill out that SF-180 and send it over to the National Archives can take time. But if it's certified with one of our offices, it's very quick because it'll be registered with us.
So the process of ordering our DD214 is not something that the county does for them, but we can assist them in filling out the paperwork and assist them with sending it off, right? But it is something they need to send in and they need to sign to receive it, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I do recommend that it is good to fill it out with a rep, and to have a county veteran service office mail it into the National Archives.
So after you've received the DD214, the next step in a logical order would be to visit your veteran service office, right? If you haven't already, if you don't already have your DD214, to determine what benefits are available for you, right? Because if you wait until the last minute to do this, there's benefits that you may not be eligible for, and we'll get into those a little bit later. But the idea of understanding what a CVSO, what a VSO and organizations can do prior to planning for end of life is extremely important, because there's certain, you may get service connected, you may file for pension, which later on, when the veteran does pass away, that the benefits are already there. It makes it a lot easier, and maybe Morgan, you can help with that as well. What would you say to a veteran who said, I don't have any illnesses, any injuries, so I don't need to come to your office. Why would I come there if I don't have any claims to file, or I don't qualify for a pension?
That's something that we hear all the time. I either don't have a service-connected disability, or I'm not qualified for another reason. But all we usually ask is just sit down and conduct a benefits review with one of our teammates, and that'll afford them the opportunity to really identify what programs they are and will be eligible for throughout the end of their life. And beyond, to be honest with you, for their dependents. Exactly.
I mean, this entire show is about a peace of mind for the veteran and the family, and preparing in advance. Like we mentioned at the beginning, it's an uncomfortable conversation, and I would just be willing to bet, I don't know yet, but I will at some point, the sooner you do it in your life, the less stressful it is. If I'm a 80-year-old veteran and doing this, the potential for me passing away is closer than doing it at 45, where I'm not really stressed about that. So doing it now just seems like the best thing to do, in the least stressful. I have a lot of conversation with Vietnam veterans, and a couple with World War II veterans, and I'm sure both of you have, because you've been in this atmosphere longer than me. The biggest concern they have is, how is their family going to be taken care of? And if they can relieve some stress from their family, both financially and just going out looking for a DD214 and being connected with the Veteran Service Office prior to them being ill or terminal ill, I think that's going to assist everyone, including the veteran and their family. So I think, again, going into your VSO, how about connecting with the VA healthcare system?
Absolutely. So that's my next question. After, do you have a DD214? Are you enrolled in the VA healthcare system, and do you know what type of support is offered there? And seeing veterans with advanced disease and how much it takes to be able to navigate through this time in your life. To be enrolled in the VA healthcare system, I've seen it makes a tremendous amount of difference. First of all, in addition to having any other type of healthcare, if you are enrolled, you have that additional support as a veteran through your primary care office. You have, I know we're going to go more into detail about the types of benefits that are available when you are enrolled in the VA healthcare system, but I've seen it day in and day out, the difference that it makes. And even if you don't have right now a service-connected injury or illness, but you even get, you are 0% service-connected, that begins the process of you having things in place for if and when you need it. So I absolutely recommend folks to get their 1010 Easy done, get enrolled, and if and when they need it, it is there for them.
Great. Again, the theme is being prepared, right? That's the theme of the entire show, navigating into life service or support for veterans and their families. So not only does the veteran get prepared, but the family member understands what's available for them and the veteran. Morgan, is there anything you'd like to add to the, getting involved in VA healthcare? I know there's been tons of changes in presumptive conditions. And if you're not connected, maybe you're not getting the emails from the VA healthcare that's telling you, now the PACT Act has changed. And if you're disconnected, maybe you're not going, you'll still get you'll get that information through your email or through that network.
That's 100% correct, Josh. It's extremely important for these veterans to be connected to their VA healthcare, and then with that is continuing to go to their appointments annually so that they stay connected, even if it's not their primary care doctor. If a major health incident does come up, it's significantly better to be covered under the VA than using a private insurance. Everything's going to be paid for if it's something that's related to your service. So it's extremely important just to at least start the ball rolling and take that appointment with your local VA provider and get to know them because they really want to support you.
Great. So the next topic, the next thing I want to ask you about is, I think, something that's even harder to talk about than DD-214, visiting your CVSO, getting connected via healthcare, because that's something you could do at any stage of your life. Advanced healthcare directives, and I think this is something that's definitely one of your specialties, Noga. So
oftentimes, when a veteran or when anyone looks at advanced healthcare directive, it's a sense of, I have to perhaps give somebody else the ability to make my decisions for me. But actually, when we sit down and we talk about what this is about, it is actually empowering yourself to make sure that your wishes are carried out by someone that you trust. And so actually it empowers you to take more control over how you're going to navigate, even when you're no longer perhaps able to clearly share that with your healthcare providers. So there's different ways to look at it, but it is absolutely, I feel, a way to empower yourself to maintain that control until the end.
And not only that, but how do you feel it relieves stress from your family to have to make those decisions at that point in time in your life where it's, I don't know the correct term, but do we stop the...
Exactly. So do you want to continue with aggressive treatment? Do you want to have feed tubing? Do you want to have CPR? And so we have all these discussions, and we talk about what that would look like with when you make those decisions. And we're very honest, and it's very important to be honest in what that looks like if you continue to do tube feeding or whatnot. And then you are able to say to your family, this is what I want, this is not what I want, and it is binding.
That I think that hits on twofold, right? The veteran and the family. You probably see it where one family member says, "No, we want to keep mom or dad alive," and the other one says he or she's suffering, but we know this is what mom or dad said. This is what they desire. They were in a good state of mind when they fill out this paperwork.
Exactly.
So we're going to go with our father or our mother's wishes. And I think that, to me, as a parent and as a child, I couldn't imagine being on either side of those. And it doesn't, and unfortunately, it happens probably daily, right?
Yeah.
So the advanced healthcare directives, although they're very hard to think about, are something that's one of the most important things here to make sure that we've completed. So thank you. Morgan, when we talk about burial benefits that the state and the VA offer, could you help discuss those?
Yeah, absolutely. So if and when that unfortunate time comes when the veteran passes, hopefully the conversations again have already been had, and it's really nice to bring the spouse to initial appointments so that, or the dependent, so that they have a relationship with their veteran services representative. But there's several different, you will get reimbursed for internment. Now you can apply to be interned at one of our state's VA cemeteries. There's also some VA cemeteries as well, but you can intern wherever you want. And there's also, we also connect our veterans with support to make sure that they're receiving their proper honors, burial honors, which is something that's not often discussed. But I know for me, it's something that's extremely important that when my time comes, that those honors are laid to me. So having those conversations is really important with the family members, and letting them know what's available to them, and then letting them know what documentation they'll need prior to coming in to apply for those allotment, for that burial allotment, excuse me. Again, death certificate, having the DD-214, those are very important to have so that we can assist with applying for those benefits.
So thank you. I do get a lot of questions when I'm talking to veterans about, can I be buried with my spouse? And Morgan, you know the answer to that?
Yeah. Yes, you can. Now, I will say if a veteran's saying, I have it in my head, I want to go be interned with my spouse at Arlington, our national cemetery, that's a different conversation, and that's unfortunately Arlington is running out of space. But most of the time, arrangements can be made so that we're ensuring that the spouse will intern with their loved one.
Great. That seems to be one of the most important questions, or one of the most frequent questions that I get asked through, can I be buried with my spouse? And the answer is yes, in certain circumstances. Not in Arlington. We know Arlington is running out of space, and also a very historic and very to our country, and to the service members in Arlington, or the service members in the United States. So thank you so much. I think that this, what we're talking about now, is an important way to plan, right? This is all about being prepared. When we come back, we will continue our conversation about end-of-life resources and support for veterans and their families. Right now, let's hear from Veteran Service Officer Del Pratt in a word with the VSO.
Hi, I'm Del Pratt, Veteran Services Officer for Napa County. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to discuss a topic that's becoming more and more important to our veterans and family members here in Napa, and I'm sure all over the country. That's the subject of getting service-connected disabilities listed on the death certificate. That's immensely important for survivor benefits. In other words, let's say, for example, a veteran is only rated for hearing loss and tinnitus, that constant ringing in the ears. And unfortunately, that veteran passes away from a condition such as COPD that may not be service connected. If we can get the hearing loss and tinnitus listed on the death certificate, it makes that survivor's claim automatic. And when I say automatic, literally there's an Autobot the VA is using that's oftentimes that claim is awarded within days. If those service connected conditions are not listed on the death certificate, that claim for survivor benefits could last several months, even up to years, just trying to get that service-connected condition or that service-connected death and those benefits awarded to the surviving spouse. And what we've seen here in Napa, and again, I'm sure it's like this all over the country, is that oftentimes that survivor benefit is the main source of income that keeps that surviving spouse in the home. And so again, I'm Dell from Napa County. Reach out to me personally if you need to, but it's highly and critically important to have service-connected conditions listed on the death certificate, regardless of if they contributed as a primary factor to the death or not. Thank you. Have a nice day.
We're talking about end-of-life resources and support for veterans and their families. If you want to be part of the conversation or you have any questions, just use the URL on your screen to join us Zoom webinar, or call us at 925-313-1170. So I want to talk a little bit about CalVet Veterans Homes. The California Department of Veterans Affairs has 8 veterans homes located throughout the state, and they run from Chula Vista, Yountville, Ventura, West LA, Lancaster, Redding, Fresno, and Barstow. So these homes offer independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing care, and memory care. That's used for veterans that are over 55 and have some type of need for that type of services. Depend on what independent living, assisted living, skilled or memory care. And if you want to be added to that wait list, you want to fill an application online or call that home's administration's office directly. They're a great resource. We have one just about 50 miles away from us, Napa. I think it's the second oldest or the first oldest veterans home in the United States, but there's 7 other ones located throughout California. Morgan, have you had any opportunity to visit any of the CalVet veterans homes?
Oh, yes, actually, Barstow, and many people hear Barstow and they cringe, but it's a beautiful facility. I actually used to volunteer my time there when I was still in the Army out at the National Training Center. It's a great home with a really dedicated staff, and the veterans that are residing out there are living a great life. It's a really nice home. All of our homes, from what I've been told, are very nice.
Great. That's a great plug for Barstow. I don't think Barstow gets enough credit. I've actually been there myself, and it is, I mean, the level of care is going to be equivalent to anyone you go to, right? Maybe you like the desert. That's okay. So thank you for that.
I would say if you can get into a home, get into a home. So if you want to go to Yountville, but Barstow's open, please go to Barstow, because what a lot of people don't understand is, it's a 3 to 5 year wait for the skilled care and the memory care. But if you're already in a home, you're gonna, and those services are required, you're automatically gonna receive that care instead of having to wait. We have a lot of veterans that wait too long, and then not many have 3 to 5 years to wait. So we really try to have these conversations with our veterans early. Try to get into a home as soon as possible, because you really are going to be taken care of quite well.
And some of those homes you can take your spouse is able to join you, correct? I don't know which ones it is. Probably depends on availability, but I believe that is definitely an option at some of the homes.
Some of the homes, I believe Yountville, and I don't believe Barstow or Ventura, maybe Los Angeles. I'd have to check, but there is that option available.
Well, thank you, Morgan. Thank you. So, Noga, this portion of the show is really going to be your expertise. We're going to talk about caregiver support, homemaker, aid and attendance, adult daycare, home-based primary care, the Center for Rehab and Extended Care, and respite care. Those all are things that you are experts in and you deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we're really gonna, everybody please listen to Noga's advice here. And Noga does this on a day-to-day basis, much more than Morgan and I. So really the first thing I think is very important that the VA does, caregiver support program. And I will one sentence say what I know what it is. The VA helps caregivers be better caregivers, right? In a nutshell. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So this program initially was for post 9/11 veterans and their caregivers. For post 9/11 veterans that were severely injured or illness, and to support the caregivers. Now it's expanded to veterans of other wars that are severely injured or are suffering from illness, and it provides training for usually it's their spouses, but their caregivers, training, education, and a stipend to enable their caregiver to provide that necessary care for them to be able to be in the home and receive the care. Oftentimes it's coupled with additional support. The majority are also enrolled in the VA healthcare system and are receiving additional support and care through being actively enrolled in the VA healthcare system. So that coupled with the Homemaker Home Health Aid Program. So a number of the programs that I'm referring to now, you need to be enrolled in the VA healthcare system and have a primary care physician or specialty care physician at the VA, and then to be able to receive those programs, your primary care or specialty care physician will put in a referral for those, and your social worker at the VA will help get those established for you.
I think that's a clear evidence that the VA going above and beyond and training homemaker or caregivers, right? A lot of these terms seem interchangeable, especially folks that don't do this every day. So again, we appreciate it. I do believe we have a graphic to help explain this.
So again, the comprehensive assistance, that is a benefit that you apply for separate to your VHA, your Veteran Health Administration. But oftentimes it is combined with also being enrolled. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Homemaker Home Health Aid Program, because I think I see it every day. I see the impact of it every single day. It is hard to be cared for at home, but for many it is the best possible care because you're at home with your family in a place where you want to be. But the day-to-day care can be extensive. So the VA, usually primary care physician, will put in a referral for Homemaker Home Health Aid hours, usually between 14 to 20 a week. And the VA has VA contracted home care agencies that they work with. Every VA has a little bit different list, but the VA social worker will put in a referral, and then that home care agency will make such a difference in being able to provide those hours of care to assist the family in caring for the veteran.
So that was home-based primary care.
So that's the Homemaker Home Health Aid Program.
And then home-based primary care.
So that's another amazing program that the VHA, that the Veteran Health Administrator provides. If a veteran is housebound or is not able to leave the home and needs a care at home, the VA can offer what's called home-based primary care, where the whole team comes to the veteran in the home. The nurse, sometimes occupational therapist, social worker, sometimes a psychologist, depending on what the need is, will come to the home to make sure the veteran is in a safe place, has the support and assistance that is needed. It is actually one of those programs that I am just so amazed at and just really appreciate that the VA provides for our veterans at home and support for the family.
Is there a service-connected disability need to either one of those, either the home-based primary care or homemaker health care? Is there a certain level of that you know of?
You need to be able to need assistance for your activities of daily living. So you are usually service connected for an illness and then need those activities of daily living. For example, dressing, bathing, feeding, those types of needs you need assistance with those. And so.
But not necessarily. You have to be 80%, you have to be 90%, you have to be 100%. It's more that if you had none of those, you could still qualify for one of those programs.
You can,
Okay.
and thank you for that. The comprehensive assistant, you need to be 70% or more service connected. So, the most important thing is to ask those questions. Is this something that I qualify for? Is this something that maybe I just need that information on and maybe eventually, will qualify for? So the most important thing is to say, I heard about this program. Is this something that is for me? And start those conversations and advocate for yourself or your family member or your veteran to see, well, maybe I do qualify or maybe I will qualify. So
That seems a bit like aid in attendance, and maybe I can, ask Morgan if he could. We have a slide, I believe, aid in attendance. If Morgan, could you tell us a little bit about aid in attendance and the requirements for that?
Yeah, so aid attendance is a program that is means based, if you will. So it's based on your assets, and it's also based on your need to provide extra support at home. You can receive pension and still receive aid in attendance. And it provides additional income for a veteran who are housebound or need that extra, need help with extra activities. So that's what that benefit is.
Thank you. Do we have anything to add about aid in attendance?
So sometimes when a veteran needs to go to a facility and all of the cost, everything that they are receiving monthly goes to the cost of their care, sometimes they're able to use the pension with aid in attendance to help with the cost of their care in a skilled nursing facility or other type of facility. So sometimes it's at home with the cost of the caregiver, and sometimes it's a facility. But as Morgan said, it's based on income level and your need and activities of daily living.
Right. So these all kind of tie together, and I think we have another slide about adult daycare through the VA. This is a program that is exactly what it sounds like, right? Your caregiver can essentially drop you off at the VA with well-trained folks that can lead you through activities throughout the day. It's meant to be more of not a medical thing, but more of an activity thing. Is that correct?
That you are in a safe place, and it gives opportunity for your caregiver to rest, to take care of whatever she or he need to do, and they know that you are in a safe place, receiving any type of assistance that you need during the day. And I'd like to add that is one program. There's another program that the VHA has, that the health care has, and that's respite care. And respite care is also an opportunity for your caregiver. And we don't talk enough about what a caregiver actually does every day, which is tremendous amount, but gives your caregiver an opportunity to rest. You can have respite if you are actively enrolled in the VA, either by going to an inpatient unit, and then that's the Center for Rehab and Extended Care for 30 days a year, while your caregiver has respite, or sometimes you're able to have respite at home. So again, there is a lot, there is much more than many people know that is available through your health care when you are enrolled in the VA healthcare to support you and to support your caregiver.
So let me just clarify that real quick. So for respite care, you can either utilize adult daycare. Is that the same thing?
So no, adult daycare is separate, but it's a type of respite.
Okay.
So that if you qualify for adult daycare, that's one program. You may also qualify for respite, which is another program where they used to say you had 3 hots and a cot for 30 days at the VA, or somebody comes to your home and gives your caregiver an opportunity to rest and rest.
That's what it's all about, caring for the caregiver?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
And providing them with some relief, which I imagine are in the caregiver support program, that they're provided with social tools and emotional tools to help them, when they get frustrated or when they have a lifeline where other caregivers, there's caregiver support groups.
They have groups, trainings together. You do them virtually, of course, but you have other caregivers that support you and you support them, and you talk about, the issues, you talk about the challenges together. And I've heard from many that it's very, very supportive and really validates the challenges of being a caregiver and provides that needed support.
Thank you. Morgan, do you have any on respite care, adult daycare? Are these topics that you guys share with veterans, or that it's something caregivers, I think especially, they can be overwhelmed, right? We want to let these dependents or these survivors, that are potential survivors that come in with their veteran, that these things that are available, don't be overwhelmed. There's things that you can do to have your time to relax and recuperate. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. We get asked this question, questions related to supportive care almost on a daily basis. And although it's not something that is filed through our office, we make sure to connect the veteran with the VA, or we even have some local nonprofits that help veterans navigate these benefits as well. And we usually have really good success going through them because, like Noga, it's what they do day in and day out, and they are the subject matter experts on these benefits.
Thank you. Noga, could you take a minute to tell us a little bit about the Center for Rehab and Extended Care?
Absolutely. So there are a number of them. We have one here locally that prior to COVID, there were three areas that they focused on. One that I mostly had our veterans go to was end of life, end of the journey, I guess, a hospice. So there is, most hospice care for veterans is in the community, but there is an inpatient hospice unit, 16-bed unit, and it's called the CREC, where a veteran can choose to go and end their journey there. And so for many, really it's important for them to be in an environment with other veterans and feel that support. That is where they chose to go. So that was the CREC. Another aspect of the CREC was, as I mentioned, respite. The 3 hots and a cot. Usually what was offered was 2 weeks in the beginning of the year, 2 weeks at the end of the year, where a veteran would go to stay and have their family members rest while they were in the CREC.
Thank you, Noga and Morgan. That's a ton of information, and I think a lot of the names are interchangeable, especially for folks that don't do this all the time. So you all sharing this with us, I hope it becomes more clear to the veterans and the dependents that are watching as well. When we return, we will conclude our conversation.
Honestly, I'm not really sure why I'm calling. It's just...
I'm having nightmares.
My husband and I, we're just fighting a lot.
I can't get any sleep.
Things just keep getting worse, and it's starting to feel like I can't do this by myself anymore.
We could use some help figuring things out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called. Why don't you tell me more about what's going on? There's no wrong reason to reach out for crisis support. Whatever you're going through, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help. Visit veteranscrisisline.net to learn more.
We were talking about end-of-life resources and support for veterans and their families. If you want to be part of the conversation or you have any questions, just use the URL on your screen to join us in Zoom webinar. You can also call us at 925-313-1170. So earlier in the show, we talked a little bit about how the veteran can prepare, pre-need, getting your DD-214, connecting with the VA, connecting with your VSO, and then we talked about the different programs that are available, home health aid, adult daycare, those type of programs. So in this time of the program, we're going to talk a little bit about when the veteran has passed and how we can help the survivor and dependent then figure out the next steps, do what to do. We hope they're all prepared, but sometimes they won't be, right? It just happens. That's part of life. So let's talk a little bit about who is a dependent. So Morgan, can you help us out with that? Who's a dependent?
Yeah, so a dependent is a spouse or a child of a veteran until they're 18 years old, or they are until they're finished with college, or if they were disabled, if that child was disabled before they were 18, they can still remain on dependency status even after that if they're disabled.
Right. So 95% of the time it's the spouse, right? And then probably the other 3 or 4% it's a child. So I think we all know what a dependent is. Dependent is the survivor. So how do we prepare these dependents, or how do we prepare the survivor? How do we prepare the spouse to come into your office or to come into the VSO? So Morgan, what do you think is some of the most important documents that a survivor or dependent needs to bring in your office after the veteran and their family has passed away?
So again, the original or certified copy of the veteran's DD-214, a marriage certificate if that has not been registered in one of the Veteran Services offices, and a death certificate if that is available as well. Now, we can get a lot of things started even without the death certificate. We can still start the process, but that is something that will be ultimately required.
Right. And how about on your side, Noga? Is it pretty much the same thing?
Absolutely. And I start the conversation as early as I can. Oftentimes, it's actually the veteran who's asking the question, when I do pass, what type of support will be available to my spouse. And so we do go through that information, as Morgan has said, to get those things in order. And I do talk about the death certificate and the importance of making sure that the service-connected injury, illnesses, condition is somewhere on the death certificate, either the terminal diagnosis or a contributing diagnosis for the veteran. And oftentimes, following the passing, actually every time following the passing, I will call the spouse. And again, because there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of, to just reiterate, these are the things that you got in order, these are the things that you need, then you give me a call when they are all, because the death certificate does take a little bit of time, and then I will meet you at the County Veteran Service Office and a warm handoff to a representative. And oftentimes that is what is needed at this time, because again, there's a lot of emotion. It can be very overwhelming, and to see a friendly face and to give a warm handoff makes a very, very big difference I've seen over the years. But absolutely.
So you, Morgan, and our VSO from Napa County, Del Pratt, all mentioned something needs to be on the death certificate. Can you say it again?
Absolutely. So when a veteran is service-connected for and receiving a compensation for an injury, illness, any kind of condition, it may not be their terminal diagnosis. So they may have something that is not, like for example, COPD is what they passed from, that's what they died from, but that is not what they're service connected from. But they have another condition, hypertension, or what usually a more, that has to be somewhere on the death certificate as a contributing factor to their passing for their spouse to receive the dependency and indemnity compensation.
That makes a lot of sense that we had that a word with Del, and then both of you say that's one of the most important things to have. Morgan, can you tell us a little bit about DIC?
Yeah, so there is the one caveat to DIC and making sure that that service-related injury is on the death certificate. If that veteran is 100% permanent and total disabled, and they have been for 10 years, it does not matter what's on their death certificate. If they pass from X, it does not matter if they're 100% permanent and total. The surviving dependents will receive DIC if they're eligible.
And that's a question I get a lot when I speak to older
lot.
veterans about what, I'm 100% permanent in total, and it's been 10 years, or it's been 8 years or 7 years. What is the amount of time? And you said it, 10 years, and you don't have to have passed from a service-connected disability, right? That's what we're saying here. So
that's correct.
But if you're under 10 years, then it needs to be from a service-connected disability. So
correct.
And DIC, during the PACT Act, I think DIC expanded wide, right? I mean, a lot of folks came in and said, my veteran father or mother passed away from what is now a presumptive condition, which wasn't maybe when they passed, but now that surviving spouse may be eligible for DIC. How often do you see that, Morgan?
We're starting to see it more and more as we're able to educate our communities on the PACT Act. I mean, the PACT Act was the largest expansion of VA benefits in the VA's history. So there's a lot to unpack there, and it continues to grow even with access to healthcare. You don't even need to be service connected if you've had toxic particulate exposure, or you don't even have to have deployed now if you have had toxic particulate exposure. You could have gotten it stateside, which, I mean, there's definitely instances where you're exposed to harmful chemicals and toxins that affect you later on in life. So we see a lot of it. Of course, we've seen a lot with Agent Orange, but in the younger veterans, I guess you could say the post 9/11 veterans, we are seeing a lot of conditions associated, upper respiratory, sinus, and GI intestinal issues, and very rare forms of cancer. So it's really important to come in and just have a conversation with your County Veteran Services office to identify what you could be eligible for.
Yeah. So not just monthly compensation in a monetary value, but a lot of veterans ask me, is my spouse going to be able to have health care when I pass away? So that leads me to CHAMP VA. And I would like to leave this open to either one of you that know some things about CHAMP VA to just explain that a little bit.
I guess I can go. So CHAMP VA is health care for dependents if that veteran is 100% service connected. So it's just like having, I mean, it's more or less like having normal health care, but you receive care through CHAMP VA. And a lot of that is moved through TRICARE and care in the community. So it's a great program, and it's something that, healthcare is extremely expensive for families, especially those on fixed income. So CHAMP VA is a great opportunity for those dependents to receive that care.
And CHAMP VA it's a cost sharing program, right? They don't pay the entire healthcare, but it's cost sharing, and there's many things included with CHAMP VA, but it's something that I think it's underutilized, because I think the general public doesn't really understand it, because it's just not something that is utilized too much. A lot of folks have health care through Medi-Cal or Medicare, but again, having VA health care and having civilian health care, there's no reason why you can't have both, right? You should have both. A lot of us that are, government workers, we still have our VA healthcare as well, because there's different things that are offered at, there's different networks that are open to it. So CHAMP VA, I hope those that are watching at least look into it and understand what it is. And of course, come to your VSO and ask us a little more about it. We can explain it to you. So the VA also has this Survivor's Benefit Plan for retired military spouses. So this is a benefit plan that allows retirees to ensure, after death, a continuous lifetime annuity for their dependents. It's based on a percentage of retired pay that's called the SPB, and it's paid to eligible beneficiaries. So this is something you need to do while you're still active or what you've been out for, I believe it's less than a year. That's another way that your survivors can be taken care of when you know, upon your death. So if you know anything else about that, Morgan, I think it's another program that's very underused, and it's just small. It's for retirees only, so it's a small portion of the clientele that we see daily, because I think most of the ones we see, they're not retired. But if you have anything to that, feel free, or maybe I hit it right on the head, Morgan.
Retirees and those that are medically retired as well. So that's a very important plan for those of us that are actually medically retired through their service. It's something that you do have to elect into, and if I'm not mistaken, it is you must sign up for it within a year of exiting your service. So, but it's a really good plan for what it offers. The rates are extremely low. And it's something that, we push everybody exiting the service through retirement or medical retirement.
Great. I mean, a large reason for this show, obviously, is to, talk to veterans and their survivors, dependents about what's out there for them that they may already know, they just don't know that much about. And then also let them know things that are just in the weeds, and sometimes they get lost, like Champ VA and SPB and aid and attendance, just certain things like that. So we hope that you all watching are learning a few things tonight and can, dig in a little bit deeper and get a better understanding of what those are. And of course, if you come into a VSO or visit NOGA, we will learn with you. If there's things that, we need to learn, we'll go through the process with you the best we can. So again, we've talked about preparing, so the veteran's still with us. We've talked about the benefits that are available through the VA with the home health aid and all the ones NOGA knows so much about that, we're all learning at this time. And then we've talked about when the veteran did pass. And something fun that I like to do on the show is think about when you only have a few minutes to talk to a veteran or a spouse. I mean, this happens to all of us probably. I'll go to a store wearing a t-shirt that says USMC, and then I start talking to somebody about something, and then they'll start, talking about their father's ill, or their mother's ill, or their son is, currently deployed, or their daughter's deployed, and they ask me about something. I only have a few minutes, so I want to give you guys both a little bit of time to tell me how you would handle that. If you're going on an elevator for 10 floors with an older veteran, and they ask you about certain things, what would you tell them, NOGA?
Well, always it's, do you have things in order? Do you have your DD-214? Are you enrolled in the VA healthcare system, and do you know what may be available through that? Are you service connected? For many veterans that are not receiving any type of VA assistance, and they are receiving all their care out in the community, their veteran status is not identified in primary care, specialty care, hospitals. So if your veteran status is not identified, then how is your service-connected injury and illness identified? So it's very important for us to all advocate for, and I guess up the elevator, I'm already out of the elevator, but just it's really important for all of us to be aware of the importance of identifying veteran status and to make sure that we get the information that we need. So get all those things tucked in. Make sure you have your records. Find out what's available through the VHA. Find out if you are service connected, and then go to VSO. Do those little things, put those things in order. And even if there's nothing, you're already starting the process. Mm-hmm. So if you need it. So basically, as we said, all those things, just start that conversation.
Sometimes we got to chase them out of the elevator.
I know,
keep
right?
Talking,
Start
right?
that conversation.
It's okay. We stay in shape. We'll keep up with them. Right. How about you, Morgan? If you got a couple of minutes to talk to a veteran about very important things, and we probably covered most of them, hopefully. But if we left something out, let us know.
No, it's. I mean, I do this on a consistent basis with veterans, especially our older veterans. Unfortunately, our Vietnam veterans in particular. Honestly, many of them have have felt abandoned, and so they don't know what they're missing in terms of support for their service. I tell them all the time, listen, we're local county employees that when you come and see us, you're going to come and see a member of your community, a veteran from your community that is here to serve you and your family. And it takes 15 minutes, sit down and do a benefits review with us. And if you don't want to come in our office, we'll do it over the phone. We can do appointments over the phone. And then one last thing I really want to touch on that's extremely important is character discharge. So many veterans, not many, some veterans will say, well, I have what's called bad paper. I've have, a discharge that is not under honorable conditions. There is something called a character discharge upgrade process, and many of these veterans are eligible for that character discharge upgrade. They can come and find information after our office. Every county is a little bit different, but I know up in your neck of the woods, Swords to Plowshares offers, they'll have attorneys that'll help you move forward in that process so that you are eligible for all these services. Because I hate to see a veteran that could very much get their discharge upgraded and get access to these benefits instead of just thinking, well, I have bad paper and that means I'm not going to get any help. Well, that's just that's not always the case, and we'd very much like to have a conversation with them about how we can support them.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think if you're going to stop before you even started, then you're definitely not going to get what you need, right? So there was a time when there were certain people that weren't, they were asked to leave the military, and that unfortunately is not the case anymore. And a lot of that can be fixed. And there's, and we all see it where Vietnam veterans at this point in time is their first time having any communication with the VA, with a county veteran service officer, or maybe they had one experience and it wasn't that good, so they stopped completely. And now they're at a point where they need it, and the level of service that they're going to get from the county veteran service officers and hospice like yourself, Noga, is really amazing. And the VA, we've seen with the PACT Act, and we've seen with all the levels of care that the VA adds. The state of California as well, that with the 8 veterans homes, the level of care, even in Barstow. Morgan gave a great shout out too. It's really great what's being offered by the VA, by the state, and especially by us, County Veteran Service Offices. This concludes our panel discussion tonight. I want to thank our guests, Noga Welner-Kessler and Morgan Boyd, and thank you for joining us on Veterans Voices.
Thank you.
We hope you have found our conversation educational. We'll leave you with some resources to help with your end-of-life planning. For access to any veterans benefits, a county veteran service officer is a good place to start. Find yours at nacvso.org. Getting your V-214 is the first step to accessing benefits. You can get yours from the National Archives. Just go to archives.gov. CalVet Veterans Homes help to house and care for Asian veterans. Go to calvet.ca.gov and find the CalVet program section or call 800-952-5626. Plan for your final resting place at the VA National Cemetery Administration. Find them at cem.va.gov. Veterans Voices is brought to you in part by contributions from the Diablo Valley Veterans Foundation, dedicated to helping veterans near you. American Legion Post 246, honoring the tradition of American Legion in Danville. If you would like to help sponsor Veterans Voices, you can donate to Veterans Voices, care of Diablo Valley Veterans Foundation. Get in touch with them at diabloveterans.org. To rewatch tonight's episode, check back on our homepage later this week or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. You can also rewatch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Veteran Voices of Contra Costa, so be sure to subscribe. Our next show will air on Monday, May 13th at 7 p.m. We'll be talking about veterans and healthy living. You won't want to miss it. To all our veterans and their families, thank you for serving. To all of you who've tuned in tonight, thanks for watching and have a great evening.